everyone to What the Fiction. I'm Marie Claire Gould, your host, and with me for this cool deep dive is my good friend Nat.
Hi.
Welcome, everyone. We are going to be deep diving into the first half of our amazing show, Love Between Fairy and Devil. Yes.
Kanglanju.
Kong-
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's technically the translation is the parting of the two characters, really. Yeah. So they're they're gonna be separated at some point, yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's almost expected, especially from the framing of having longer episode arcs where people are together for a long period of time. And especially Jansha, we've talked about that in our last episode, but the whole story structure is baked into the idea that you'll have this whole framing period and then eventually things will break. So, and if you haven't watched the first episode yet, we'll try to at least reference it, but please go back there and understand the genre that we're talking about if you can. Mhm. Yeah, I had a mutual on Twitter that's a longtime Asian drama fan say, "Wow, you got them in with this. That's setting the bar really high." And I'm like, "Yeah." Mhm. Oh, we can start that over again. We were having technical difficulties.
yeah.
Nobody can hear us.
Yeah,
Oh
now
my
you
God.
can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you can.
Okay, well, that's great.
Yeah. So sorry about that. Oh my God.
So everybody was just hearing me respond to you. That's adorable. Hopefully that
Oh.
you understand.
No, I fixed it.
Yeah, I know. We
It's
understand. So
it's good. Yeah. No, I feel bad.
don't.
It's like my first time or something. What the hell?
It would not be a live stream without technical difficulties. Let me just say
Yeah.
that first and foremost. I've done a lot of these,
Okay,
so
so
I can
what
say
were
so.
we talking about? We were talking about how if this is your first genre, go back and watch our first episode where we did an intro to genre. It will very very much help you get used to it.
Yeah, and if it's
And
your first C
yeah.
drama, like again, as I've said, we've set the bar really high.
Yeah.
If you watch the other genre that are in the same genre, you will probably have a more interesting and less entertaining time just because of pacing issues and story structure, that kind of thing. Again, episodes are a lot shorter in terms of like there being 36 now versus 60. But if you do get into the genre, there's a lot of good to be had, and some of my favorite shows are 70 to 60 episodes. So
Yeah. So, Nat, do you want to introduce yourself?
yeah, of course.
Since we haven't gotten very far.
No, I'm the only one that's been on mic so far, so fun. I am Nat. I am the host of Meta Machina, which is a podcast about genre fiction from a feminist leftist angle, specifically like deconstructing a lot of the genre fiction that's out there right now. We are on hiatus for an extended period of time just based on life stuff, but you can go back and look at our last older episodes and kind of see where I'm coming from if you're interested in hearing what I have to say, which I do not blame you if you're like, I just whatever. But yeah.
and,
Been
and
watched.
your favorite C-drama?
Yeah, I've been watching C-dramas since 2019, so it doesn't seem like a long time, but I've been unemployed for most of it. So I have watched over 100 shows and all of the major genres that have come out in the last 3 years. And my favorite show of all time is Eternal Love of Dream, which is the sequel to Eternal Love, but based on the book. And I have read the book 20 times and wrote fanfic on it too. It's like I'm obsessed. I love
dragged you
genre.
into that world, so
You did.
I take a token win on that.
Dragged me into that, and also did a 100-tweet thread on Meteor Garden that got me to watch my first modern C-drama. So
Yeah.
thank you for that as well.
Yeah.
And Dylan.
Yeah. I'm Marie Claire Gould, the host of What the Fiction, as well as I do What the Force podcast, which talks about Star Wars and mythology. And generally speaking, I'm a psychology and mythology nerd. So that's pretty cool. All right.
That's how we connected. That was so wonderful.
This is yeah, we met through Star Wars, which is great. We have a few disclaimers for the show because, as you can see, we are very white people.
Extremely white people.
Extremely white people. So we are not native Mandarin speakers. We're going to do a large picture view of themes and symbolism and kind of overall of the episodes that are in. There's just not enough time to deep dive into every single episode. There's great blogs out there that are covering those sorts of things. This is really going to be full spoiler. We will wreck other voices when we can. And yeah, we just love this medium, and I love genre so much from a mythological perspective. It's so good. Yeah,
absolutely. The one thing that like kept me going after 2019, when I had to watch like every single of my favorite characters die because there was some weird Western prescriptive idea of punishment for people that have done bad in their lives. So I was saved by this medium, and I hope that you can all enjoy it, even if you get into the stuff that makes you bored at points. Like just ride with us.
Just ride with us. All right, so where do we start? Let's start with costumes. This is a weird place to start.
I love that you moved this up top. It's great.
Well, like, okay, so I covered F4 Thailand with Ty Black on Wit and Folly, and I got like super obsessed with the costumes. And when I started watching this show, you and I had talked about especially DFQC's costumes and sort of especially the style of the Moon Tribe and what was behind it. And I was obsessed with his costumes, but when you actually look at all of the costumes, they're really, really wonderful. And so, like, you know, tying back to my roots of F4 Thailand, I gotta talk about the costumes. The amazing stuff. Okay, so let's just briefly talk about the accessories, because it's like this show loves accessories.
You just put every accessory on there too. So, and this is going to be, of course, spoilers for the current episodes. We're going to go up to episode 19, just FYI.
No, all of these are up to where we are.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, like episode 19.
Yeah, sorry. That was on the first slide that you couldn't hear me on. Yeah. Okay. So, this is something I remember Carrie Fisher talking about. There needs to be more space jewelry in Star Wars. And genre is actually not that commonly jewelry heavy. Maybe crowns, maybe headpieces, maybe hairpins. But this genre specifically loves jewelry and accessories, and I love it.
The costuming is fully realized, and in a way that really speaks to what they were aiming for. There's absolutely no question that they looked at themes and characterization and indications. Everything is supposed to tell you a story without speaking it. It's a show don't tell kind of thing.
So I'm actually going to start with the Orchid purse, which is her like faux way of pretending to be an orchid when she's actually not really an orchid.
Yes.
Yeah, and so she carries this around in her kind of maiden phase on when she's in like the fairy city, and you know she uses it to like hold the little like jade stone that she gets from Changha, and it's just like a really cute accessory to be like I am this like orchid, and it feels very childlike too. I had a plastic purse like this.
She's got like she's got like the dollar store plastic purse, but it's actually beautifully constructed and
Hmm.
of heavenly origin.
And looks like an orchid. Like it
Yeah.
looks, yeah. The next one I wanted to talk about was the bone orchid, which was made from his heart blood. Oh my god.
Yeah. So for some context from the novelization, this is actually an important part, right? The bone orchid thing is going to be more important in the later part of the story as well. But, in terms of him creating this little moon gem,
Hmm.
which is referenced like you shown with the orchid around it, and then it turning into this bracelet that basically is an extension of himself and his
And
powers.
can protect her with his
Yeah.
powers.
Yeah, this is I wouldn't say it's a common thing in Jansha.
Mm-mm.
There's something in Eternal Love of Dream where part of the heart is being made into a ring to like
Ashes of Love, they take a piece of their true form.
yes.
He takes a feather,
Hmm.
from his true form, and she takes a petal from her true form, or
Yep.
a piece of the ice flower or ice lily or something
The
like that.
frost flower, yeah.
Frost flower, and turns it into a token. And it's very much like, of my heart, I give you a piece of my heart. That is literally
Yeah.
like, and this is way before he is really even aware of his love for her.
Yes, he just thinks that this is a protective measure against his own body being harmed.
But he made
Um
it in the shape of an orchid, strangling, wrapping around a moon.
yeah. Obviously
This
he
is like,
feels
so this is the two of us as if we were intertwined in Grande, and
yes.
you get to wear it around your wrist. There you go.
Yeah. And it has an interesting implication in being the thing that calls her out
Hmm.
as with her collusion with the moon tribe. So
Yeah,
she doesn't even realize at the time, and even later on she lends it out, not realizing the significance of it because of the fact
exactly.
that he didn't actually tell her about it. He just put it on her while she was sleeping and then
And then
hid
he
it.
hit it. Yeah, like he hasn't been really very truthful with what he was giving her, or that, it could be dangerous to other people if they attacked her.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was really key. Okay, let's talk about the ring and the hairpin.
Yes. So these
Ever
are
so
really important
briefly.
in regards to both of them being able to get past the one heart curse
Mhm.
in order to hide their emotions. And I think it's really important where each of these come into the story. So he's already decided that he wants to wear the ring way before he gets out of Shu Yenten. He's like, okay, I need that relic in order to keep myself from being exposed to all
Mhm.
these emotions. Um, and
And
then we have,
and then
yeah,
he's selective with using it because he starts to desire her emotions. And
yeah, he starts
that's,
taking it off.
yeah, and he takes it off purposefully to like feel things from her, because
Hmm.
he enjoys the fact that she's happy, or that he's made her happy, which is,
Yes.
oh good. Okay.
Yeah,
And
he's never felt joy before in his life, and this is the first time. And it is an
yeah.
addictive substance. Serotonin, we all know it. We all hit the little lever whenever we want, like a
Yeah,
little bit of
exactly.
joy.
Exactly. And he's still growing as an individual at that point. And that's what sort of triggers her, because he's so like demanding of her emotions.
Yes.
Triggers her to ask for the hiding heart pin, which
Yeah.
is, both of these relics, interestingly, are from the formation of the Moon Tribe, which
Yes. Exactly.
the
Um,
hairpin is from, you know,
Lady Yan
yeah.
was the founder of the Moon Tribe. She's basically their, ancestral
Hmm.
goddess, I would say. She was rejected by her lover, who was of the fairy kingdom or the deity kingdom, and made a pact that she would never allow them to see her emotions
Hmm.
or be part of like in her heart. And so, yeah, the hairpin has been picked up by Shun Fong, Dong Feng Xingchan's like younger brother.
Yeah.
and has been stolen by Ji Li, and she offers it to her. And so this is the first time that Xiao Lanhua has really had agency in regards to sharing her emotions. So she puts the hairpin in. It causes a little bit of a rift between them when he realizes that she has the power now, not
to
him.
block him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really important scene. I love it, and
And
I love that she continues to wear it. Yeah.
it also is like in the costuming we have mythology that's
Hmm.
built into the story that mirrors and is opposite the mythology that they're currently building, right?
Yes.
And that's really wonderful. I don't know. I love this world, and I like the fact that they're willing to tell more stories in it makes me really excited.
Yeah, I really do hope that the success of this actually leads to them doing the sequel with Siming and I don't remember his name, the black dragon that she falls in love with.
Yeah.
It's really good.
And she's like,
Um,
screw you, boring fairies.
yeah, because heaven sucks. We all know that. So,
All right, let's talk about Orchid
Mhm.
and her costumes and how they change. So she pretty much kind of has the same costuming through the first little bit where she's a maiden, she's in um the sort of immortal lands, the kingdom as it were. But
Mhm.
there's some significant changes when she actually starts to uh learn new things, take on new things. She starts to get more and more color into her
Yes.
costume.
Yes.
When she actually goes on her kind of like trial where she's trying to prove herself, do her kind of initiation test to become an immortal, which is like a gate. She's trying to pass a gate. She's trying to pass a guardian. She actually is wearing full on purple,
Mhm.
which is great. And then it, realizing and taking over agency of herself and sending DFQC on his way. Um, she actually has this bright yellow band around her chest, which is
Yes.
so cool.
And I find that really relevant because it's also the thing that she wears when she's ousted from heaven. By force. I feel like this is her sort of becoming herself because
Mm-hmm.
while she's wearing these heavenly blues and purples very often, and she does that in the Moon Kingdom as well, especially when she starts to go
Mm-hmm.
back away from uh, her lover. But she's sort of like transforming, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. And then she ends up in that green and then that blue. I feel like this is sort of the first stage of her initiation into feeling independent. Like she's showing herself and she's not dressing the same way as other people anymore. She's sort of getting away from that conformity that's like
Yeah.
sort of stripped her down. So I love that outfit most especially because of that.
The one on the bottom with the
Yes, the
blue
yellow
and
tie.
oh yeah, that
The yellow
tie,
tie.
yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll
Um
get into the blue. The blue's my favorite, but we have to talk about that but later.
uh well, it's bluey green, which is really good. It's really good.
Yes.
um but then she experiences a change. We're going to talk about that change.
Hmm.
And then like I've talked about before, genres and fantasy make metaphorical literal. And so
Yes.
literally she changes in to suit the metaphorical.
Yes.
And there's a little bit of literal in there too. But she gets dressed up in a completely different way. And there's a massive shift in how she dresses and what she wants to wear. And she now has sort of, it's almost like princess like
Yeah,
garb.
she looks like a princess,
Mm-hmm.
a maid princess still because of like the way her hair is done. But her accessories are all moon
Mm-hmm.
or like based in the moon. Whereas before, all of her accessories before were floral, right? They were like
Yeah.
and there are some floral things like
Mm-hmm.
the green suit you have here. This is I really feel her green dress is her goddess form, like
Mm-hmm.
her healing, like she's sort of coming into herself. So there's a lot of
Because
floral
her
elements in that.
power is green and his power is blue.
Blue. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really important when you see them like wearing those colors. It's
That's when they're identifying the most with themselves, even if they don't
mm-hmm.
even know it yet.
Yeah. So she
Which
starts
is
to wear like things that are green banded, and then at one point she's kind of, and it's near the end of the episodes that we're talking about, she
Mhm.
actually is full in this gorgeous greeny blue dress that
Mhm.
actually mirrors DFQC's like very, very sexy outfit. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna move on to him just so I can talk about it. All right, so he has his extremely extra uh I am the boogeyman of the three kingdoms outfit.
I love that they like basically what they did, and to know like costuming wise, they have not done this very much in Jansha at all. But they did a lot of 3D printing for
Mhm.
these costumes,
Mhm.
and I'm sure the influence really comes from video game styling,
Oh, yeah.
because of the fact that a lot of the video game, like, not talking about like Nintendo video games. I'm talking about like mobile games and stuff
Mhm.
like that, where those are like the primary forms of expression for a lot of the Jansha mythology are based in like MOBAs or MMORPGs on Chinese social media. So like you can tell that they took those influences and said that's a really cool aesthetic, and like let's translate that into a physical 3D form, and it really is so perfect for the genre because it doesn't exist within the conventions of our material costuming. It's not like it doesn't make sense because it's not supposed to. It's mythological, it's
Yeah.
godlike.
And they did 3D printing of little bows for the women, and for the men they did the headpieces, which
Yes.
is just glorious. And I have to say his crowns, I'm obsessed with his crowns cuz he actually
All of
goes,
them, yes.
with the exception of his like extreme like beginning outfit.
Hmm.
His crowns go from black slowly to gold.
Yes, gold.
Yeah, and I'm obsessed with that. And even in his brown outfit, which we'll talk about in a minute, it's kind of like it's dark,
It
but
looks like a
it's
talon
it's
to me.
like it's brushed with
Yeah.
gold or brass. Like
Yes. It's
it's
got the highlighting on it.
it's just gorgeous. Okay, so when we start out and he's in the Arbiter Hall, he pretty much wears black
Black
consistently.
with gold accents, yes.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
little bit of flashes of gold. And then
And
near
he's
the
covered up
and he's
too, by
covered
the
up.
way.
Yeah. And then as we get to the end of Arbiter Hall, he actually changes, and it's when he's specifically spent his time trying to heal uh Orchid,
Hmm.
and he's in this gorgeous blue velvet number
Yes, with
with,
the jewels on the collar.
it's like beading, it's a fine embroidery, and what I'm obsessed with is that his arms look like little tendrils of newborn like grass or like orchid coming
Hmm.
up his hands.
Yeah, it looks like growth. It also looks like
Yeah.
lightning to me too, which is
Yeah.
also very relevant to the story.
And he
Um,
pretty much goes back and forth between black and blue even when they get to the new into the Moon Tribe and what he's doing. He kind of goes between the different costumes
yes.
until they body swap, and then he body swaps back, and then we get this gorgeous brown number where
The bronze.
it's
Yeah.
like bronze, and there's plants growing up the inside to
Yes.
show like symbolically how close she's gotten to him.
Yeah. It's like it looks like autumn to me.
Mhm.
Like it looks like
Yeah.
the full harvest.
Yeah.
And what I love about this outfit is that it's continuously used in very specific points. I call it his lightning outfit. Like not lightning as in lightning from the sky,
But
lightning as
he's
in the
lightning.
dawn or the
Yeah.
night coming into.
Yeah.
Like when you think about the like the translation of these outfits of their personal characteristics, you have to think about them being the sun and moon or like the twilight and the dawn, and that is him basically coming fully out of that evening wear idea into something that's more regal and majestic, but is also flourishing and about like feeding other
Mhm.
people. It's so rich and so wonderful. I love that they use that.
And then we get a little bit of a peek of this new outfit with the gold when he's like doing
Mhm.
more official stuff near the end of this arc before they go to the mortal arc. But it's full on brocade with like flowers. It's awesome. So kind of
Yes.
showing where he's grown and gone. And the gold, again, is coming forward because he's more whole. We do get this flash of the him with his hair down, and in this kind of like his pajamas. These are his pajamas.
This is his vulnerable costume because
Yeah.
like he went through the was it 51 lightning strikes for his
Mm-hmm,
brother,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and basically like pretended to be sick in order to get taken care of, and but also
Yeah.
he's actually now vulnerable. He's now subject to emotions for the first time in his life as a choice, not forced upon him.
Yeah.
I'd also like to reference the comments. Esther referenced the fact that his name is Ching Song, which means green sea. So very good shout out
Mm-hmm.
there. Greenish blue, the blue costume definitely fits in with that.
More
But yeah,
himself in that costume, and it totally fits, especially Dylan Wang, like his whole thing. I did want to point out, so he is most of the time never not without a crown.
he's always got something on his head.
And so it's really important when he doesn't wear one or when it falls
Yes.
off his head. And
And yeah.
he doesn't wear it when he's vulnerable with her and when it falls off his head to rescue her. That's all I wanted to say.
It's also important that, when he's actually got no crown on is the moment when his brother actually like realizes that he is in power, because he's been looking up at him at a
Mm-hmm.
throne forever. And then his brother is humbled by the experience of understanding the whole history of his relationship with his father and accepts him at that point. Even though it's going to be a rocky ride from there,
Yeah.
it's still wonderful to see him again exposing himself in a real way to other people, including attempting to smile or hug people. It's great.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah. All right, let's just briefly talk about him with his hair down and in this amazing costume. I don't know. It's great.
I tried to include screenshots of him taking off his jacket when he got the lightning strikes during that period where he takes the punishment for his brother. Because like but he's at that point now in the story where he's fully aware of every emotion and feeling in his heart, and he takes it and he decides to choose. I mean, he chooses suffering for a reason, and he will continue to do that based on the fact that his emotional tree is now alive. But yeah, that's such a powerful like
moment. Yeah.
But also
we get slight Dylan whip nipples.
Oh, we got full Dylan nipples in the torture scene.
Yeah.
But for very brief periods of time, I wonder how much they had to like edit that out for censorship. So.
Yeah. And then he's like in the morning after, like pretending to be sicker than he is, just to get more.
Oh, he just wants some candy. He wants some flour cakes. Yeah. What a little demon.
Yeah. But no, he's looking like that the whole time.
I swear to God, if they would have done that more in the whole series, it would have been a perfect 10 for me, honestly. I would have overlooked anything pacing wise as long as I had that. That was so hot.
Oh my God, yeah. All right, let's talk about
Chang'an.
Yeah. So this is like huge shout out to I guess Sianlin's blog. Links in the liner notes. She pointed out that he's a stag. And I didn't
He's a deer.
He's a deer. I didn't get this before.
Oh, that's so funny though, because like I'm an idiot and like there's probably some like actual meaning in his name in Mandarin that I totally missed. But he the fact that they have in the animation in the intro to the show this deer that's injured, I was always wondering who is that? Who is that?
Who is that?
And it's
him.
It's him. He is the injured deer. And if you go back into Western romance, obviously there's a lot to look in there. I mean, you could talk about the white stag as a symbol of purity, and it was hunted by the kings in legend. I mean, even House of the Dragon recently had a white stag involved in it. So, like that's a really mythical thing that, people bring into the story a lot. But
also like translate to unicorn, virgin and the unicorn being attracted to the unicorn, that sort of idea. Yeah.
It's a pure creature.
Yeah.
But from an East Asian standpoint, in terms of what that represents. There was a mythical mount that basically found waters of purity in the mountains for a heavenly figure. And it's also been associated with Buddhism and gentle wisdom. So he definitely fits the bill of being sort of like, he's used by heaven for a purpose, and
Mm-hmm.
he is attracted to purity, is pure himself, is an innocent and naive kind of person, but also, legitimately, stags are also a symbol of royalty, so
Yeah.
that's nice as well.
Yeah, exactly. So good stuff there. He doesn't change his costume so much. He wears a mix of white and blue,
Mm-hmm.
which is sort of the standard for heaven.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I like you pointed out that his horns grew,
Yeah,
and
they did. Yeah. His horns did grow between sort of the beginning phases when he is more innocently with in love with Orchid to later experiences with her.
yes.
All right, let's talk about our Dark Lord of the High Sheep Pavilion.
Yes, Hong Rao. So I didn't show Hong Rao in white because I mean every genre has like gods in white. I don't need to really give you that costume over again. But I absolutely love the detail in him when he's in his alter ego as the Dark Lord of Lushong Pavilion. He wears this costume that is very obviously based on microscopic pictures of butterfly wings. I cannot describe it any other way. I don't think there is any other interpretation of that, honestly. And butterflies symbolizing transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Also his servant de is a butterfly, so I feel like there must be some very cool mythological stuff around there that I haven't been able to fully explore, but the
I mean,
reference is enough.
he's built an entire cult around rebirth, so that
Yes,
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
uh, and of course, just I mean, I think it's pointed to in the early episodes. I'm trying to remember, but it is a
it is.
slight spoiler ish how involved she is. But Geely is her colors match the Lord of the Dark Lord as well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously she's some high she, and you'll find out her identity in later episodes in terms of like where she's actually from. I was always wondering what kind of like spirit or animal she was. But it's actually really interesting. It's complicated. We'll get into it next episode. But I love how her outfit definitely matches where her association is. And you can tell already, she's set up as sort of this uh roguish figure who like only believes in money and security because of
Yeah,
her past, so it helps that she is kind of like wearing the same colors and also sort of rags. I love that
yeah,
she's in that, like, she always changes back to that costume even if she's in better clothes.
yeah. Or has access to like probably the wardrobe and everything like that. That
Yes. Hmm.
she could dress more like a maid of the palace if she wanted to, which would be nicer. It is actually the slide is wrong. It's wrong, huh? But yeah. Thank you, Esther, in the comments. Yeah. All right.
I
Let's.
just read it aloud, it's
Yeah,
fine.
I know. I know. We know. We're
Wrong
just
how, yeah.
yeah. The slide was wrong. Let's go into our journey into the characters. Um, this was really great. We actually pulled this. We talked about the heroine's journey ever so briefly in our previous episode, but we actually kind of wanted to just high level talk through this before we dig into some of the highlight moments in kind of each of the phases of what they're both going through.
Yeah, I
Um,
think this is the most important thing for you and I. This is something that we've like glommed on with Star Wars a long time ago. I know that I didn't even start having an online presence until I wrote about the heroine's journey for The Force
mhm.
Awakens. And like looking back on that, I it's not that deep or good as it could have been, but I do think that in terms of storytelling and structure, it's been such a touchstone over the last 50 years even, that
Mhm.
we need to talk about it and we need to at least try to deconstruct the story from that lens. If you're not familiar with the heroine's journey, it's basically a adaptation of the original Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people like listening right now know that because of what we talk about. But
Yeah, it was an answer by Maureen Murdoch, who needed something more femme appropriate for her counseling patients that she was working with quite closely, who didn't feel like they identified with the hero's journey, which I found out is actually, in Joseph Campbell's perspective, supposed to be non-gendered. It's so just supposed to be the journey an adventurer goes on.
he assumed a little bit about that, though.
I know. He did.
The famous quote, "Women don't have to do the journey;
Oh, they
they
don't go
already are."
anywhere. And
Yeah.
it entirely ties to what we're going to be talking about in the later slides, which is the goddess is always there the whole time. And he gets into this in the goddess's book, that she just has to figure out that she had the power the whole time.
Yeah. And that's one of the key things about the heroine's journey that's always been interesting to me, because it was explicitly from a psychological perspective, is that it's supposed to be about an internal journey that you take dealing with gendered norms and the patriarchy that you live in, because unfortunately we still live in that and have
Mm-hmm.
lived in that since the beginning of time. So understanding why these things are very much more internal versus this external fight against violence or forces, and even in that sense, like the way that we actually approach those sort of normative ideas about power is violence or violence is power, from a feminine perspective, where we seek peace because, we are the ones giving birth to children that will die in these wars. We're the
Mm-hmm.
ones losing our loves to things that should not happen.
Mm-hmm.
How do we create peace in a world full of conflict in a non-violent way?
And it
And
ends up
also,
being like a quest for healing, or a quest for nurturing, or a quest for a way to heal, rather than,
exactly.
yeah,
It's
war.
healing a broken world is
Mm-hmm.
honestly how I look at it, in terms of the way that patriarchy restores violence and oppression as being sort of the standard.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reaction to it in a positive way, which is extremely feminist, in the
Another
sense. Yeah.
another thing about the heroine's journey is that it fundamentally, because it's mythically seeking a wholeness, right? It ends up being
Integration.
integration and a wholeness of character. It ends up becoming a more fulfilling story for many
Yes.
characters, masculine or feminine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the heroine's journey is not, specifically gendered.
Yeah.
Like you can go through it at anything. But it's important to understand that it's a different way of looking at the hero's journey that's more, again, internalized and based in sort of understanding that the societal and cultural structures that we require in order to grow, we have to find them again. They're almost always lost for us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And like Joey Salloway would say, it doesn't need to be called the heroine's journey. It's the not, whatever is not in charge journey.
Yeah.
It's the other journey. It's the I'm not part of the ruling norm journey.
Yeah.
And that's all it needs to be. It doesn't necessarily need to be gendered. And I like talking about that because Joey Salloway is very smart.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I do think that we should gender anything, although we can look at stuff in terms of the historic norms for like societally feminized or masculinized things. But
Mm-hmm.
again, we're separating that from a sense of actual personal identification.
Exactly. Yeah. So we start out with the separation of the feminine. Um, Orchid is born an orphan. Mentor leaves. Um, family is completely torn away. No longer who they thought they were.
Yeah, she
Right.
has no identification with a mother figure. I mean, she has her mentor, but her mentor is very interesting in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
A complex character that is, usually identified as male in
Mm-hmm.
Chinese mythology. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
And the inner track you actually have DFQC's stuff.
yeah, I had to do the mirror. We have to always do the mirror.
Yeah. And so he has no mother. The servant, sort of like, I guess, nursery maid who raised him, was also killed because he got too close to her. And um, he had to cut off his emotions, and we're going to get into that, but it alienated him from his baby brother.
Yeah.
For Orchid, we have she seeks to be close to Changha and has an ability to be accepted by other fairies because she doesn't
Yeah.
have someone to speak for her from a father perspective. And she's not worthy no matter what, unless even when she tries to kind of change the fates of those around her.
Yeah, I think for her, she is basically unable to be part of the society no matter how hard she tries to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing this really important job. She's taken over being the arbiter of fate after the loss of her
It's like
mentor.
paying an intern to do a director's job.
It is exactly that. Yeah, she's like underpaid, under appreciated.
Respected. Yeah.
Yeah, and then constantly told that she can't do anything. So she looks to these things like that can give her a sense of structure or power or even identification within the society, which is going to be a maid in Chang Hung's palace because he knows that he's a friend,
Mm-hmm.
and she doesn't, again, like if you've watched these episodes, it's very clear that she understands that he is a good person and that she cares about him, but she's lost all the memories of their ability that of their actual relationship. He wiped them clean of her because he was so
Mm-hmm.
afraid of his brother and the repercussions of him finding out that he was in love with her. So there's this beautiful like thing where she's actually already identified with the masculine, been able to have this relationship with them, but society and patriarchy have torn them apart, and they're just kind of operating on a sort of a robotic drive, just moving forward in their lives as normally as they possibly could, with the addition of blah blah blah, fate.
Yeah, fate.
Because fate is driving everything closer together.
Yeah. We get DFQC getting his emotions back very slowly, and that his trials involve taking care of an orchid, which we'll talk about because I think that's really
Taking
great.
care of houseplants is hard. We all understand
Yeah.
that. But this is a very especially difficult houseplant to take care of.
And
Um,
we get for her this, she doesn't belong. She's gone through this immortal trial, but yet she's not quite good enough. She gets rejected by Changha. She gets rejected by the turtle. And then she crosses the threshold and literally has to leave her home, right? She goes to the Moon Kingdom. Yep. She starts to believe that she has equals, but is taken advantage of people who want to use her for her power. And so also doesn't feel like she is home anywhere.
Yeah, she's constantly yearning for home, but she doesn't know how to get back there.
And it's not really even heaven.
Her home.
Right. Yeah.
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 She is, again, she's a lot. All of these maiden arcs always start with, I don't know who I am, where I'm from, or where I belong.
Yeah.
And it's finding belonging and understanding that even where you come from or who your parents are, those are important things, I guess, for you internally, personally, but in the longer scheme of things, are they really that important to your journey as a person? Like, you will end up where you belong.
Yeah. We get DFQC starting to basically be like, oh, I can have everything.
Yeah. He's starting to again, like he's starting to freebase joy, which is like so funny. But he's starting to understand, like, beyond just keeping her happy and healthy like he did when she was a plant to him. He's now starting to understand that he feels happy through somebody else's happiness, which is a key step in children's development, right?
Yeah.
We teach kids how to like share their toys so that they understand that,
making other people happy and having sort of a mini-fied social contract where, hey, if other people are happy, you're also happy. Seeing their joy is good as well. and we start to get this push into our queen phase where she starts to become a leader, and understands both DFQC's like reasons for how he is, understands the plight of the Moon Tribe, but also understands that cutting off your emotions cannot possibly be the solution for all of this. And so voluntarily jumps into the other underworld effectively.
Both of them do, and that is the turning point of the story as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
Happens in, the later teen episodes, but and I've included a lot of slides, we'll get to that, but it is the most important part of the story, because essentially what you're dealing with is, when you have like a monster husband narrative, you always have to try to find the original curse, what
started
them
this
into a monster. And the fact that Xiao Lanhua goes for it fully invested in trying to heal this wound is such a beautiful thing to me, and I'm so glad that the story exists for that reason. Like, that's the reason I think that this is so popular, is because it builds on those existing narratives in a way that's so perfect and like crucial, and then goes into that further genre aspect of this person already had power that they did not know they had.
Yes, exactly. And then we actually get a start of her being the queen or the mother phase in the like maiden mother crone idea, but I like to call it the queen because it's actually fully pointed out in that way. So we're going to talk about kind of those first two phases and how she enters into the queen phase, but it continues on that she is actually the queen throughout the whole mortal arc and a little bit beyond, and I just want to talk about those later as well. So it's not done. But first let's talk about the Virgin's Promise.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing. So if you're familiar with Maureen Murdoch's Heroine's journey, you should also probably look up The Virgin's Promise, which is a book by Kim Hudson. I am just being familiarized with this, but she's a screenwriter that looked at like some of these archetypal things, because if you know like screenwriting history, there was a very famous memo that went out by fax to a bunch of people in the early 90s based on the hero's journey that, oh God, Claire could talk about this a lot more than I can. It basically shaped the way that stories were constructed for a very long time and almost became sort of calcified in the way that people talked about them. So the Virgin's Promise is supposed to be sort of like almost like not like an antidote. It's supposed to be non-gendered. It's based on existing storytelling structures. The one that was most amazing to me used was Viola from 12th Night. It's the idea of going into a different world and learning how to be a different person, experiencing how to be that other person, understanding that you no longer belong in the world that you came from. And how do you figure out how to deal with the world once they've accepted you as you are, which is really difficult. Like, there's going to be a point in the story, of course, where there's going to be a massive transformation for both characters, and they're going to be themselves, but everybody around them has changed instead. Like, the whole point of these stories is that by internally changing, you have affected the world externally, so that the external world now reflects you. It's really beautiful and brilliant, and we'll get into that more, I think, in our closing episode. But I just wanted to call out that these archetypal structures are so baked into how people write and how people approach these things, because they are psychological journeys. They are ways for us to understand the characters that are being put in front of us. Every single story has elements of this. It doesn't have to follow that perfect key structure, but it has to actually reflect the way that we grow and identify as human beings, including our maturation into adults and sexual beings and all those kind of things. So.
And as we pointed out when we were first talking about the heroine's journey, it's all in a search for wholeness. It's a quest for wholeness. That's literally the subtitle of the heroine's journey.
Yes.
And so it's really about how Joey Soloway would talk about the society in our world wants to segment us into pieces and say, you can only be this one small thing.
Yes.
And cut off pieces of ourselves. And this and the heroine's journey and other ways of thinking about this from a wholeness perspective give us structures by which to fully integrate all of the different aspects of ourselves.
Yes. And as you said, Jansha makes it literal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which is fun because then you're like, no. They literally integrated the different aspects of themselves. And
They had to
then,
share bodies for
yeah,
a third of the story.
yeah, they experienced alchemical union. Literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
How'd that even work?
Yeah,
It's amazing.
exactly. It's great. All right. We decided to break this into kind of like Orchid's specific journeys. Just because I really wanted to talk about it because it's like nice to actually see it literally on screen.
Yes.
So let's talk about her maiden phase and what's going on with her. One of the key things about sort of the maiden phase is that as long as you're reliant on your mentor, you can never grow.
Yeah. If you look at fairy tales from the beginning of time, it's always somebody starting out with their parents or step parents or whatever situation. Even if they're
Hansel
orphans,
and Gretel. Yeah.
they're always stuck in this specific place. And in order to, grow as human beings, they have to get out of that and move on and go approach the dangers of the real world in order to be real people, which is pretty normal for human beings.
You're basically a damsel or a child until your parents either die or allow you to leave on some way.
Or kick you out.
Yeah, kick you out. Yeah, or your mentor dies or leaves or goes off and has their own adventure, like you say on the slide. Yep.
Hopefully another drama. We'll see.
Yeah, I want to see her. She's so cute. All right, let's talk about orchid care and feeding. Okay, you included this thing.
What to do if your potential girlfriend is a houseplant? No, I just found this online and I was really happy to kind of matched everything. Orchids are notorious for being difficult plants to raise, obviously. We know that. But it makes it even better with the fact that we can meme about, don't touch the orchid, don't look at the orchid, don't ask the orchid why it's mad. It might die.
Don't forget the orchid, to take the orchid out to a movie night every once in a while. Sometimes that shows you're making some semblance of an effort.
Yeah. I want the modern AU version of that. Also going to the careful use of sunlight,
Yeah.
Not only am I going to feed her morning dew, I'm also going to just take her to see the dawn light because that's the best light spiritually for her. And at the top tower of heaven, we're going to go up there too.
And don't overwater their roots because they will rot and then they won't be able to access their goddess-like powers. Yeah, exactly. So it really starts out that she's actually a damsel, which is a shadow maiden, right? This is important. She's actually not a full-on maiden, which is a heroine in any sense of the word. She's willing to go out and help others. She's not at the start of the story. She feels very pitiful, and part of that is because Changha has actually stripped her memory. Yep. So that sucks. But she was neglected by those around her, including her mentor, right?
I think purposefully too. There was a sense of hiding her.
Yeah.
Which is of course around the Shadow Maiden idea, like you said. She originally was something else. We can't let on what she is for her own protection. So
the god of fate can see.
Yes, exactly.
What these things mean and whatever reason she was scared. DFKC meets her basic needs, literally on the Maslow hierarchy of needs. He, food, water, warmth, rest.
all four of those literalized, even to the point where he's using his hellfire to warm her water.
Yeah, and he does the
warm her body.
He went and got the eternal fire from some scary place, and she was like, "Wait a second, you went and got this eternal fire?" And he's like, "Yeah, no probs."
Gotta keep you safe.
Gotta keep you warm, my baby. And then also, nearing the end of kind of her maiden phase, she fully realizes no matter what, she's gonna be secure and safe with this guy.
Yeah, she's like when she's been constantly inculcated with these messages that he's sending her because he's telling her her body and her life is more important than anybody else's in the entire universe.
Yeah.
So she's so it's the miscommunication trope, of course, but it's also very well done in the
Yeah.
sense that he has like given her lover's words for episodes upon episodes, and
Yeah.
she doesn't want to believe it because she still doesn't really have a sense of identity or self-worth, but she like leans into it by saying, oh, I'm in love with somebody else, or
Mm-hmm.
but when she finally breaks free of her former attachments, that she starts to sort of be like, okay, well, maybe he actually does like me, and maybe I can do something with this,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah. And she starts to like trust in her intuition, which is a big thing
yeah.
in sort of the heroine's journey. Intuition is really, really key, and sort of relies on the fact that he has treated her so well,
Mhm.
and looks at his behavior instead of what everyone else has ever told her.
Yeah. Yeah. He's the first person in her life to actually tell her that she has worth and value besides her mentor.
All right, let's talk about Changha, which this is the identification of the masculine. And I talked a little bit about it in our first episode, but I wanted to bring it up again because I think it's really important for many people to realize that dark union, which is something that I've talked about a lot in the past in other medium about Star Wars, etc., it's actually got an alchemical psychology basis, which Marie Louise Van Franz has actually talked about from an Jungian psychology perspective, which is often when we are trying to find our union partner in alchemical marriage, we often find the wrong person first. And this is entirely because we need that person to really show us what we're missing. And it's not that Changha is bad. He's actually really great. But
He's a good lead.
yes, but he is not right for her.
No.
Right? He is willing to, and this is something I joked about with Nat like earlier on. I'm like, I'm watching this drama where the entire premise of it is a white lie by a good person is worse than an asshole of a bad, like, asshole truth telling or bad person,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And
And
that's kind
that's
of the
usually the
idea,
thing.
right? Like,
Yeah.
DFQC is always willing to tell the truth to her, even if it's scary, but he stripped her memory. And so that was the original thing where it's
The
like,
original sin. Yeah.
you can't actually ever truthfully be honest with her because you have white lied from the beginning. And it's so extremely common in especially C dramas that the nice guy actually finishes like way last.
Oh, way
Um,
last. Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, I think for in terms of the way that he's built as a genre or even C drama second lead, he's amazingly well done in the sense that he's authentic.
Mm-hmm.
He like we've talked about this in the last episode, but he respects her agency and he recognizes her brilliance immediately. You know, of course, fate is part involved, but the reason why he strips her of her memory is because he's terrified of losing her
Mm-hmm.
because of the structure that he's under is so oppressive. Like
Yeah.
he's been made the god of war as a second to Chidi who had died.
Yeah.
And so he never asked for this life, but he's in this society that demands that you fit into these expectations. And so like I loved seeing the growth and build of their love story through flashbacks
Mm-hmm.
because it really took me by surprise. I kind of assumed that he would be one of those guys that was not,
It's like
a feeling person.
like what is it? Sudari or whatever, Sundari,
Oh, it's
like,
tsundere. Yeah.
yeah, Sundari. I
It's
can't
like a
pronounce
peer.
things.
So
Yeah,
tsundere is like the Japanese word for appears cold, is actually very romantic and interested and
yeah,
involved
and he sort
once
of
you get to know
tries
them.
to do that, but we get flashbacks to explain it. episodes in the beginning, right? And
Yeah, you get
it's
flashbacks.
entirely because he knows his brother would freaking murder her.
Yeah, his brother strips a maid of her immortal bones and sends her down to never be reincarnated again, just because she apparently, quote unquote, got his jade. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, this is the kind of punishment that's being dealt out to people that are interfering with this divine marriage that's proposed to happen, that may happen in the future. But again, this is future episodes. He's engaged to the goddess of Shishan, and the goddess of Shishan is the goddess of peace.
Yeah.
In order for peace to happen in the three realms, he needs to complete this marriage, and he's known that his entire life.
It's
But
very
he's never
sexy
seen
that the
her.
god of war and the god of peace are like engaged.
Oh,
I
it's
mean,
hot. It's
I
so
mean,
good.
that's the fate that they were supposed to have, which
Yes,
his fate was also interrupted. He was supposed to die.
yes.
So he
And
was
she
never.
interrupted it.
Yeah, and she interrupted it so that the sort of like societal fate could take place, which was interrupted again.
Yes,
It's good stuff.
yes.
It's great stuff. Love changing fate is literally like the
It's shocking.
best food. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. All right. Um let's talk about body swap shenanigans because we get a little bit in the beginning, right, to kind of establish the body swap.
I like realized as we were putting this slide deck up that we did not include a lot of pictures from the early episodes. So
Oh,
my
I
apologies
know.
for that, but it's okay because we did that in our first episode. But I will say that the body swap, the from the very beginning, the first episode, into what we get when she runs up and kisses him and body swaps again, is in the Moon Kingdom.
Yeah.
Is so good.
Yeah. And like metaphorically, it's just literally like it metaphorically happens to tell us that they are now living in each other's and getting in under each other's skin, getting to know each other, understanding each other's pain, etc. And
Yes.
it literally happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
As you referenced Day of Becoming You, the modern C drama,
Yeah.
body swap C drama, I always think about the idea that you take two people that are from very different conditions, very different lives, and in this case, extremely opposite ends of the universe, and you force them to experience what it's like to live a day in their life.
Yeah.
Just be in my shoes for a second. That is exactly what romantic partnership is understanding that what your partner is going through. So it's like a very
High
fast,
empathy. Yeah.
yeah, very
Yeah.
fast, quick understanding of that. It's like you're downloading that information like you're plugged into the matrix and you got a little chip in your head.
A shout out to Esther and Dylan for just embodying each other's characters
Yeah.
so well.
Avenue X
Yeah.
covered it in her videos, but the fact that they literally embodied the physicality, whether it was Dylan like hunching down, picking up his
And his
gown,
like face. Oh my god.
getting his
face.
like huge guards caught on the fabric of the curtains as he's walking through them because he doesn't, again, she wouldn't know how to be in his body, and then he's attempting to be in her body, but like he just comes off looking really funny.
Yeah. And Esther just like pulls off like
so good.
the characters.
They
so
know each
well.
other so well.
I know. And that's like a tribute to them and their chemistry and like knowing each other. And that's just like spending time working on these characters. And it's just really, really great. But I love it so much. And it's how you grow out of being essentially a child.
Yeah.
Psychologically.
You have to learn how to be other people or
Yeah.
be in other people's shoes. That's
Yeah.
the thing, for sure.
All right. Learning self-worth.
I know. I put this in here really like to as a late stage edition, but I think what I tried to talk about in terms of like his influence on her and her influence on his. Obviously, she teaches him how to feel emotions again and how to be a real human being through those and choose to remember and to feel pain. She like has a huge influence on him. She's the most important part of this journey. But she's never, ever, ever had a sense of self-worth, even though she has a sense of security and competence and like she's a very clever person. She knows how to figure things out and she takes initiative. She's not a coward whatsoever. Her ability to just go straight into the underworld and to decide to be with him, to even the where she kisses him to switch bodies so that he can be saved. That is an
taking
act of,
on the trial with the
yeah.
little fuzzy cute demon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like there's so many points within the first arc of the story where she's very aware that the words he's saying to her might not be true. But the one thing that she finally starts to sort of absorb is that she is worthy and that she is somebody to be respected and to be understood. The scene was so important to me because this is where they're sharing emotions about her losing Chong Hung. And she's like, well, I guess I should really focus on the fact that I won that trial. I should be happy. And he is like, don't try to be strong. I can feel your emotions. I know that you're hiding your true emotions. Nobody's ever done that for her. Nobody's ever looked at her and said, you are important and you
it's
are
okay to be disappointed because the world wasn't fair.
Exactly.
And they do several versions of I'm just a weak, nameless orchid. And she compares herself to the world, she compares herself to him, and she kind of goes through all of these sort of like testing and finding who she is and how valuable she is throughout the story. It's really great.
Yeah, and even in the last part of this arc, she goes through that fundamental who am I? What am I? Because again, she's being valued as an equal by somebody that's considered the most powerful god in the universe, and she's actually going to, she's actually experienced what that looks like.
Yep.
And in order for her to feel like she's on his level, she has to understand who she is. And
yeah, exactly. And it is a challenge because like when you sort of enter into a union, like he is sort of proposing at some point, if you don't feel like you are bringing anything to it, it's on unequal footing, that's always going to be something that's going to hold you back, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, every single romance from the beginning of time is about establishing a dynamic where people see themselves on the same level. You have to move past societal, cultural, class boundaries. You have to try to be the same at some point, like even if it's just shifting the power dynamics, even if you remain weak or out of power, how do I still maintain that in the relationship?
Yeah. I compare this moment where she ends up going into the like talk to the turtle to the what am I moment with Ray.
Yes.
Like what is this power in me? I don't understand it, and it is so common in heroine journeys because of the concept of all women are actually goddesses.
Yes.
And that's the idea, is that you have had this power in you the whole time. You just don't understand it, and you don't understand how actually incredible and powerful it is.
The world has told you a million times over and over again that you are weak and useless and nothing, and that you'll never amount to anything unless you prove yourself in this sort of society and culture that doesn't
by their
fit
rules,
by their rules,
which you can never succeed at.
You can never succeed at. This is a very feminist take, of course, but it's very true to the real lived experiences of a lot of people. And I love that moment where the turtle says, hello, old friend. The idea that this person has existed throughout time, but she does not have an awareness of her history or where she belongs. And he doesn't give her answers. It's a very Yoda-like moment.
Yeah.
You'll find out. The journey is the destination. But immediately is clocked as being not part of Shu Yunten, and having
it's like a sorting hat moment.
It is a sorting hat moment. It's so deliberately that way too. And the fact that there's all women, like it's like it's all these fairies trying to get into servant positions, just like Dong Feng Xing Song said, was like you're fighting to serve tea. Like in my culture, you don't fight to serve tea. Like we're not gonna do that to you. And that that brilliant moment where you realize that heaven is, well, I mean, you already knew heaven sucked, but like this is like an exposure of how bad they are,
Yeah.
is the violent torture of somebody that has no power in front of this huge group of people and nobody is speaking out.
Yeah.
That's like, again, that's a toxic society, that's a toxic culture. And him coming in and burning everything down with hellfire,
So
one of the
satisfying.
brightest moments in Jean to ever happen, because
I
we've
know.
all wanted heaven to burn
Oh
down.
God, heaven
We've never
sucks.
we've never seen a male lead actually do it. He
Yeah.
literally does it. He brings up floods, like the whole entire world structure is falling apart, and he's like, aren't you more worried about your kingdom?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
it's falling apart right now, buddy. I
And
must take this one made.
there's something so sexy about the willingness for the villain in these circumstances to literally kill everybody for one girl.
Yes,
Right?
it's a romantic trope that I will never ever.
I'm
I'll
not-
ride
I'm
and
not-
die on that.
Yeah, never getting over this one. This is
Mm-mm.
this like
That scene
engraved.
changed my life. I'm serious. When
Yeah,
I was first watching this, I was like, I don't know if I like it. I don't know. And then I was like, nope, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it for
What
me.
did I say? Episode 9 and episode 13.
Yep, episode 9,
Right?
episode 13.
Yeah. And so we have one more slide and then we're going to show episode 13's scene where the transformation actually happens,
Yes.
where she turns into a queen. So I think it's really, really important. So yeah, let's and then we talked briefly about trusting instincts and compassion in the face of fear. And this is literally like trusting the instinctual self. This is heavily talked about from a wild woman archetype perspective, that like instincts are like older than us.
Yes. Have you ever, I'm just assuming nobody here has like understood what I've talked about for like 3 years, but Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Run Like Women Who Run with the Wolves, was one of the first books that I ever read in high school, and it changed my life fundamentally. It goes to the archetypal structures of stories from a dual lens of mythology and folklore, but also personal psychiatric and psychological experiences. And so
it's so good. Like it's fundamental.
It's fundamental, life-changing. Every single thing in that book has like literally paved the way for my understanding of archetypal psychology. But storytelling too, especially through the like cycles of life, because we oftentimes just like get rid of the older woman's perspective.
Yeah,
I'm saying that as we're both older.
Yeah,
not that old, but
not, like I'm looking forward to my crone age. Let's talk.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too.
You know, I'm solidly mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, it's about that. There is wisdom older than society. There is wisdom older than what our fathers tell us. There is wisdom older than what our mother tells us, although we should respect that because she comes with wisdom older than society, right? So and it comes from a sense of love and caring for others, and that we need time to grow and heal and learn, and you know,
you can't force that understanding.
The world.
You can't force that understanding on other people. But you know, if as long as you have a cognizant understanding that you come from a history, which is like I feel like a lot of westernized culture tends to dismiss the idea of ancestral knowledge or ancestral history, mostly because we're all a lot of mutts, right?
Yeah.
We're all some transplants on soil that we don't belong to, and that we have to do land acknowledgements for a good reason. So like the idea that we have a cultural and knowledge of like how to be good people, how to take care of others, how to take care of ourselves, like when you lose that, and this is like the framing narrative of these stories is always you've lost it because you don't have this mentorship. Like how do you get it back? Like how do you learn how to be a human being in a world without guidance? And you find it through yourselves and through your peers and equals, and you also find it by like healing the wounds caused by your ancestral forces.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's just briefly put on while we talk about the episode 13 amazing scene where she kisses him to save him from Changha and Rongha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brown.
And then like he gets back into his own body and blows out with fire and then grabs her and she's like, no, don't hurt them, tries to run away and grabs her by the back of the neck and kisses her again.
Yes, this scene. I love that you made me watch this with you.
Okay, so this is the story. This is you started watching it and I got so I was like, oh my god, okay, can we watch 9 together? Can we watch 13? And you were like on 10. I was like, okay, so when you get to 13, I want to watch it with you and hear your reaction.
The feminine, like our mutual said, the feminism left my body when he grabbed her by the neck. Which I honestly I feel some look. So the preface is as somebody that writes a lot of fanfic, reads a lot of romance, the idea of being sort of physically disadvantaged can be really hot if it's done in a way where you know the safety is there and her body is safe. It's fine. It's mostly like he's
doing it to prove it to Changha that she's his.
Yeah, and she already kissed him first, so it's sort of like a tit for tat situation here.
And also kind of
God.
reaffirming the things that he was saying when he was in her body to her,
Yes.
knowing that she was around, right? To
Yes.
reaffirm, look, I am serious. Yeah.
Yeah, he had prefaced this whole entire scene by actually being in Xiao Lanhua's body and telling exactly what he's done for her and what she's experienced to Chongheng so he would understand that she's not being oppressed, she's not being imprisoned, she's not being maltreated in any way. She's been fed, she's been loved, she's been treated like a princess. And so like this is so good in the sense that like he's like, no, she's with me. She literally is with me and she chose me.
Yeah.
She
just chose me. Yes.
Just chose me.
Oh my god, it made him so happy.
Yes.
It made him so happy, and also it was a really important step for her because she chose protection of his people over her former allies.
Yeah, she's going to be constantly equivocating between that. I mean, of course, because she really cares about where she's from. Not just because she's from there, quote unquote. She doesn't actually feel a sense of identification with heaven, but she does feel like she has to protect these people because of the amount of vengeance and resentment that she's experienced and seen, and she will see going forth. You know, like she is a peacekeeper and she's chosen that role in a good way, a conflict mediator. But she, like, again, she's like, I don't want him to go. I don't want him to die. I don't want to lose him. And it's so powerful.
And at least the Moon Kingdom is better off for having him around. And that's like, that's literally what turns her into a queen.
Exactly. She takes on that role.
And the key is you choose compassion and responsibility to others over your own desires.
That is what leadership is.
Yeah.
And that's what you know, Dongfeng Xingshang has been going through for the last whatever since he was a little boy.
Yeah, like he's been responsible for the Moon Tribe and to try and protect them from the injustices of a very unjust society that has basically been, I guess, discriminatory towards his people.
Absolutely discriminatory. Yeah, I would say that like when you see the framing narrative of his father and the fact that like Lady Chidi had come in and basically plowed through their entire northern contingent. I don't know what kind of conflicts happened during that age, but it doesn't even really matter. Heavenly power is always more powerful than demon power in Zhangzhe. It's always the truth. They're always usurped. They're always the other. They're never going to have an equal footing in this world. So they're always trying to find a quick fix or a way to try and fight it. So this quick fix happened to be, you'll my son is going to become emotionally dead and stagnated in order to wield hellfire, an
Yeah.
ancient thing that the tribal elder knew. So poor guy.
Uh, all right, let's dig into our queen phase of our journey, which again, it continues on past the mortal arc and past that again. I just it's important to actually talk about, okay, what actually makes her a queen. We're actually quite late in the game. It's like episode 14 by the time this actually happens officially.
Yes.
But okay, so what makes her a queen? Well, she has earned respect in her own way, doing
Mm-hmm.
things out of her own, like the way that she wanted to do things, not, kind of just being crowned, right?
Yeah.
And there's this great conversation with our black dragon, and he's like, he calls her Fairy Orchid, and uh and DFQC is like, Fairy Orchid, what? Like, why? When did you start respecting her? Like, you've always been kind of like wary. And he's like, well, she's helped you, she saved you, and yeah, the maids like really respect her. Maybe we needed this whole time. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's interesting that later on you learn from Jilly that the entire Moon tribe has
Is
been making stories up about their relationship because it's so weird for him to have brought back this fairy from Shu Yantin.
Yeah.
He's like, why did you bring this fairy back? And he's never giving a clear example. He like remember he
Yeah.
never explains himself. So
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
everybody's making up their own like interpretations of what their relationship is because
Mhm.
in Chinese dramas especially, if two people spend a lot of time together, they're probably going to get married,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the way that society works, like, and also just like how real relationships work. You just you start dating somebody and you end up at their house 3
Yeah.
months later, and it's like, yeah, we're together.
Yeah.
So
I like how he just kind of passes the decree once that happens and says, no one can stop her or be rude to her, otherwise they'll be killed. Just straight up, right? So,
yes.
I mean, that's really important because she is second to him in the kingdom.
Yes.
The only person who could actually stop that order is him. There's nobody else.
Yeah, and even Shang Chu, like, of course, like, understands that, and he's the first to recognize her as a queen.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as Geely tells him about the fact that everybody believes that she'll be the future Moon Queen, he starts bowing to her.
Yeah. And also like
It's
listening to her orders and giving her like a salute that he only gives to
the leader.
the leader. Yeah, like to the Moon Supreme. She Ajili also, although you know, uh sort of I think it was Esther in our comments actually pointed out that she's very scorpion like, so kind of
Yes.
can sting, which is beautiful symbolism, good on you on that. But she becomes her handmaiden, right? And so eh, our little Orchid ends up having to protect her too,
Well,
right?
yeah, and also a sign of royalty or, power in any C drama, historical or genre, is having a second and somebody to help you out and to assist you in your tasks, and also to be your emotional and psychological filter and like handoff. We'll get into it, but it's important that she has this figure outside of herself to bounce this information off that's separate from her partner
Yeah.
or male lead, because that's going to teach her how to be a more worldly person.
And to have like a second set of eyes and second opinion is really important. And she starts to try to guide the kingdom into this like really beautiful like way of being, like, hey, why don't you resolve things with your brother? Like, and he listens
Yeah.
to her, and she's like, hey, why don't you like go and do that?
It's by force too. I think the
Yeah.
most important moment in the body swap episodes is when she's responsible for his body and having to go into that large meeting
Mm-hmm.
with the two kings, the king of the north and south, who have been causing all this drama, and then Xunfeng, his brother. And she basically, she speaks his emotional vulnerabilities out to this like intimate crowd of people. She literally says, I feel bad about killing my father and I want to resolve things. And he is so upset, of course.
Yeah.
But like at the same time,
That's the truth.
that's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's her understanding that the resentment and hatred that has grown over years of his absence needs to be resolved in some way.
Hmm.
And she's just cutting to the quick a little bit, but at this, and that's also what leads to her being outed. Like the reason why like the people in like the periphery understand that they have a body swap
Yeah.
is because they realize that,
He's not
oh, that's
acting
not
like him.
him.
Yeah, that's not
That's
him.
not him.
No,
And
no.
I love the conversation with Shang Choi. It was like, when did you know that I wasn't me?
Oh, when she said she had no powers, that wouldn't have
Yeah,
been you.
that was not
You
you. You
would
wouldn't say that.
you wouldn't have said that, yeah. Um
Oh, so good.
Also, like, just in the show, again, the metaphorical is literal. She
Mhm.
says, I will be responsible for the flowers
Yes,
in her garden, even though they're
they're
not
not real.
real, or they're real but they're not immortals, or they haven't cultivated. So she's like, I'll cultivate you, I'll take care of you. And it's sort of like her promise, and this is exactly, she comes back and she changes her outfit,
Yes.
and then she's like, nope, I'm going to be the responsible one. And like,
Yeah.
that's the change. Psychologically, she's decided to start taking responsibility for others, even the smallest flowers in her garden. And then we
Yes.
get Jilly coming in and pointing out that this is the future queen.
I think Geely has a AO3 account, honestly. Like the fact that she references stuff is so true.
Yeah,
Um,
she's a very good stand-in for the audience to comment on things, which is
mhm.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. I love her outfit too because it's so
Oh,
Sailor Moon to me. And like
oh, in that moment,
if
yeah.
you know anything about like the origins of Sailor Moon, it was built on the Chinese mythology of Chang'e, which is like the lunar goddess. So yeah, she's just like Dark Lady in that. I love her
Well, and
so much.
also, so Selena and Adam Damian is
Mhm.
actually a Greek mythology too.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Endymion.
Endymion,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's like a mix of those two things, which is fun. Yeah,
Everything is iterative
yeah.
for sure.
All right, let's talk about baby.
So this leads into my she has an AO3 account thing,
Yeah,
right? I had to include the fact that there's this whole scene where she's like, I didn't know what was going on, but there's 800 romances about you right now.
yeah.
And she has
Everyone's
no
talking
clue.
about how, like,
Yeah.
yeah, you guys are totally.
Neither of them have any concept of sex or intimacy. This is normal in every single
Mm-hmm.
story. Even I just love the fact that even modern C dramas, you have these like 30-year-olds who like
Like,
apparently have never ever
thought about it. Like,
thought
they're
about it.
like, I'll get around to it eventually, but it'll
Yeah.
probably be for business.
My career was too important.
my
My
I
life is too important.
I expect my mother to marry me off someday for a business transaction at some
Exactly.
point.
Yeah. I'm already engaged when I was born to somebody, but I've never met them and I don't even care. Like I'm more
Yeah.
concerned about my hierarchical position in society or something like that. I don't know. It's just so silly, but it's also just fundamental storytelling. I do personally like people that like are more sexually active and aware because like that's a very acceptable and appropriate way to do
Mhm.
romance too. But if you're going into genre or C dramas in general, just expect that everybody in
Is
them
is kind
is
of
a
a
virgin.
yeah.
It could be 150,000 years old, Donghua here,
Yeah.
and never have touched a woman, much less seen them naked.
I'm
That's just
happy
how it is.
I'm surprised it took you this long to include a picture of him.
I did. I finally included a picture of Donghua to like basically, yeah, again, give thumbs up to the fact
Yeah.
that I don't think Dong Fang Xingcheng has ever actually touched a woman before, except
Oh,
for when he finally became one.
yeah, no, I don't think so either. Like, I'm trying to figure out which lord of the court decided to send him ladies
All those women,
at
yeah.
that one moment, and how, if it had actually been him, that person would have been dead, you
Yeah,
know?
if it
Yeah.
was back in his before feelings days, he
Yeah.
probably would have like forcibly removed them from the palace.
Yeah.
for being tits out in his bedroom.
Exactly. But part of the key of this phase is that like you start to be like sexual desire, etc. This ties really, really closely to Rey and her journey and the middle chapter, of course, in Star Wars.
Yes.
In TLJ, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, God forbid anybody in Star Wars actually has any sexuality or femininity. No, just kidding. It does happen, and when it does happen, it's celebrated for a good reason. Because honestly, like, uh, the reason why fanfic exists is honestly because of the fact that we have never really had a gross medium of stuff outside of the Western narrative that accepts sort of the need and desires of people, from early ages, even not like to just be fully realized human beings and experience that with other people. That's why romance is so popular, and I'm 100% a romance fan for that reason, is because it like negotiates the ideas of experiencing that in a safe and loving manner. Like you can finally feel like somebody understands you, not only emotionally, not only physically or spiritually, but physically as well. So they're starting to get into it. The desire is always shown through the eyes. We'll get to that as well, but
yeah.
it's so good in this drama.
So there's kind of two last things to talk about before we dig deep into some of the symbolism and some of the cool sort of I don't know, big high up concepts that we did want to talk about. But you know, I love this moment when he's like, she teaches him how to smile.
Yeah,
because
he's
like,
already gotten
be
practice
nice
too.
Be nice to your brother. Smile. He's like, smile.
This is such a fundamental moment, and I didn't talk about this in costuming. I will talk about it, I guess, maybe when the picture is shown. I have a picture later for it. Her costume in this is literally, and when they're standing within that sort of like gazebo structure that they bring back multiple times throughout the drama, it's sort of like their little marriage space.
Yeah.
It's like if they were to get married,
that's where they would do
that's
it.
where
Yeah,
they
that's
would
where
get
the
married.
ceremony would happen because he knows she likes views and sunlight, and he wouldn't
It's
do it
perfect.
he wouldn't do it in his court room.
No.
Yeah.
But this is also like a confrontation place too, so lots of stuff happens here. But this is important for him. He has finally gone through the underworld tribulation experience and has decided to have emotions. He's decided to be a person. And like I love that. But also he's decided to allow these expressions of compassion and pity for other people.
Yeah.
She tells him literally, you know these emotions now. You should feel it and express it.
Yeah.
Express it.
Show them. Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, he's way more accepting of her direct influence rather than her referred influence, which is really great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I mean, this is like our like little.
Yeah, she does it too much. It's weird, but it's a callback. It's a callback throughout the whole show. We got to point it out because it's gonna come back. Yeah. And then we get this, really important conversation because this is also like it's a really fundamental thing to femme journeys in general, which is like, I don't understand this power. I don't understand what I am. I don't understand where I belong.
It's a halfway break. It's the literal TLJ of this, where it's like, I don't know who I am. I'm getting memories of who I am, and I'm starting to understand my power, but I don't know how to handle it, and I don't know what to do with it.
And he keeps on repeating, like, you're the most important person in the three realms because I value this much. But there's a separation between them because he wants to destroy the fairy realm, and also she doesn't feel worthy of him. And it's both of those things. She doesn't 100% trust him with all of the things that now are under her. She's not just the queen of the moon tribe. I think that's really important to say. She's the queen of the universe.
Yes. It's a
That's
universal queen
yeah.
situation.
It's a universal queen situation. And she's like, I love everybody. And
Yes.
you want to kill a third of them,
Yes.
including my mentor. Oh, I would protect your mentor if she
Surrendered. Yeah.
surrendered, right? And she's like, that's not
No.
good enough for me. There's this giant gap between us, and it's not just the fact that I'm just this little, I don't know, not an orchid, right?
Yeah.
Not an orchid. And he's like, but I fed you according to the feeding instructions and you grew. Like he's dumb.
Yeah, like
He dumb.
well, he is like in the throes of love
I
as a
know.
teenager.
I know.
This is the point where he actually first starts to, like, again, he's in his lightning outfit. He's literally
Intimate relationships and friends. Like he is
he's understanding his
belonging.
desire and his
Yeah.
interest in this person. When he says that she's the most precious thing now, he actually means it. It's not him
Mhm.
just being like, my body is enslaved to yours.
Yeah.
It's like, I actually care about you.
Yeah.
But he offered to kill Heaven in order for her to have her house back.
Yeah.
And I love the actual imagery in the show. She just literally shuts the door on him and then shuts the window on him.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there like, well, maybe she just needs a nap. Like he
Yeah.
just has no clue, because he's so deeply in love that he can't fundamentally understand that by offering to kill the people that she loves, he's broken the contract between them. This is from marriage honeymoon to, oh shit, we
Yeah.
have fundamental differences, which is what happens right here. And so this scene is really important, and she just basically goes to freeze herself in order to understand her true form. But I think it's also so like it's like a form of self-harm, right?
Yeah.
And so she basically is trying to like express that she's not happy, but she's never been able to, like, again, she's never been able to go up to him directly and say, I'm not happy with this.
And this is where, like, when we were talking about the heroine's journey, this is the where she's coming to the urgent need to reconnect with the feminine, in that she
Yes.
needs to fully understand who she is. And the feminine is actually just her goddess self. That's just important to know. Like it's not like her mother. In some cases it is in story, but
No, her parents are very cursory in this. You
yeah.
don't even think that they're really her parents. They might just be caretakers.
Caretakers, yeah. Like she could have existed as long as the universe, right? It's one of those things. And
She has,
yeah,
yes.
she doesn't feel like she has anything to offer him. She doesn't feel like she has anything to protect the universe. And she needs to know who she is so that she can know where to start. That's really, really key. And she can't. She doesn't know what she is. She doesn't know what to do next. And so feels at a loss.
Yeah,
So
and she's the initiator of the separation, as opposed to the fact that previously in the show, he has been the person to push her away.
mhm.
So now she is in charge. She has agency. She says, I understand your motivations, your duties, and your life. I now have the power and the choice to choose to be with you. And right now, I do not choose to be with you based on the actions that you've done,
And again,
which is
metaphor is compounded by literal, because she's wearing the heart hiding pin.
yes.
Yeah, so she's got that on, and she is now able to fully have agency because she can protect herself and her emotions from him.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to go into symbolism in these episodes and talk about the different aspects. There is more from the Queen's phase, of course. It's just really important to kind of talk about the symbolism involved.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 7 emotions: joy, worry, sadness, pity, love, hate, jealousy.
Made literal by the 7 pills that
Yeah.
Genie gives to her. So she wants to basically heal his emotional tree before the underworld
Mhm.
arc. In order to do so, she buys on credit, of course, these pills from Geely that give her, they're basically drugs. They're like
Mhm.
psychedelics. She's just experiencing every emotion. And it's a great scene in terms of like she's eating these pills, and then he is sitting on the throne trying to deal with the emotional repercussions of it.
Because he forgot to he was feeling great about feeling her emotions because she was feeling great, and so kept on taking off his ring just to feel how great she was feeling, and then he then
Forgot to put the
regret
ring on.
and then he was like, "Give me my ring!" Yeah, it was great. Okay, so this is really cool because it ties to what are all the emotions and experiences that you need to experience when an immortal goes to go on a mortal arc, goes
Yes.
to become an immortal.
They don't have to go on a mortal arc because they've already done body swapping. Or this one heart curse.
Exactly.
She is the mortal version of him, basically, in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just think it's really cool because, we think about these things, but it's also important how to cope with these things.
Yeah, he doesn't have any coping mechanisms. That's the thing about
Yeah.
Dongfeng Xinjiang is like he has never had to experience them, so he doesn't have the ability to register his own feelings and then let them be emoted and experienced in a positive way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually a core fundamental of Buddhism, right? Is that you can experience your own emotions, but you allow them to pass over you and to move forward in a way that doesn't do harm to other people and that also like rehabilitates your relationship with the world. So yeah, she's teaching him again to be a person,
Yeah.
while still being her authentic self. Eventually, I like the idea that their tables are turned just a little bit, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So all right. Uh Bell Hooks teaches us that the patriarchy emotionally mutilates all of our young men in our societies, and DFQC is no different.
Especially men from an outsider status. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna call that out there. I put the toxic masculinity picture in here. I think toxic masculinity is a very complex subject that I don't think is treated very well if you're talking about it like on social media and like
Mm-hmm.
140 words on Twitter or whatever. I think the ideas of that were presented in this little image are really important just to like lampshade the fact that when we raise young men to be men, oftentimes we teach them to lose their emotional lability or their ability to deal with their emotions in a, a, a positive and confident way. We teach them to be harder, stronger than they
Mm-hmm.
feel in that moment. And then we also, as a society and a culture globally, identify with violence as an indication of power. That's
Yeah.
fascism. We know that. Like, we know that the understanding that you are stronger, you survive, you're better, that's what leads to oppression and subjugation. That's what creates toxic environment culturally. Heaven obviously has that. The demon culture obviously has that. They have to move past that into a communitarian and humanitarian
Mm-hmm.
culture in order for them to survive.
And
Like, this is truth.
it's no coincidence that basically the gods of peace have died out,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's also all young men are taught at some point in their lives they will be forced to use violence, right? And so
Yes.
it's his dad telling him the only way that you're going to be able to protect this thing, this moon tribe that we have built and that you want to protect is actually by being violent instead of thinking that there is other solutions out there. And it is the way patriarchy operates. It's the language of patriarchy, and
Yes.
it's not just the moon tribe, it is also heaven that is suffering from it. And it's really
Yeah.
really important that this is a message of the story that everybody's got to learn in the whole
Exactly.
world. Yeah.
As somebody who understands sort of reactionary politics too, I feel like the idea of the Moon Tribe having to escape the subjugation and go beyond heaven and like go past this river of oblivion, build their own tribe, um, be the outsider, be told in stories about being the bad people.
Yeah.
I feel like there's this element of there's this whole construction by sort of history writes the victors, colonialism, oppression, whatever, that leads to them taking on this like almost persona that they don't actually believe in. Like once you get into the culture and the society of the Moon Tribe, you realize how rich and beautiful it is. But from an outsider perspective, because they've been raised with all of these like oppressive and horrible ideas of them, you know, like
they've taken on that perspective, that like I don't know, the referred perspective of the
yes,
dominator culture,
yes,
right? And they're like they've bought into the bad PR of the dominator culture that and this is not unlike things that we experience in real life where a minority or an oppressed people take on the sort of bad branding or bad I don't know.
I guess it's like a little bit of like an anarchist perspective of like, we don't care about your rules and we don't want to. And it's really true. Like it should be true. But also like they have to literally try to be more scary than they really are in order for them to survive.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I see it.
They've lived up to they have to live up to the bad opinion of them or they don't survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're getting wiped out like right and left if they don't, like honestly. So
healing the love tree. Oh, I love this imagery. This is just like
this is the heart of the story. Really.
Yeah, it's his
the fact
heart sea. She goes into his heart sea and heals him because she can heal anything.
Yes. So of course her exact quote is I can heal anything that's plants. Yeah. And I healed it. And he's like, oh, you did not. But she did. The metaphorical being literal in this sense is so well done throughout this drama. I have never seen an iteration of going into somebody's personal soul space to show what's going on. Like when he, before the underworld arc, rejects his emotions, he actually goes back into the coffin built like the moon elder to try and remove himself of the emotions that he's now feeling because his heart tree is being regrown. He actually, like when he's in pain, feeling all of the emotions and suffering of remembering his childhood memories, he goes back into this heart space and tries to burn his tree with hellfire.
Yeah.
There's no effect.
Yeah, because it's now hers.
It's hers.
Yeah.
She owns it.
Yeah, exactly. And
the ice melts off of it and the spring tree grows.
Spring tree. And I've really been obsessed with this idea that I actually talked about with Laura Olympus, oddly, really recently, which is like, you know, there's this whole school of thought around why myth exists. And, you know, in so many ways, there's this allegorical need to explain the universe and explain the chaos that we as humans live in. And there's still a fundamental need to allegorically tell us it's okay to still grow. It's okay to still change. It's okay to heal. That we fundamentally need in all society and comes out in most myths, and especially modern day interpretations of mythology. And it's because mythology is one of the tools of culture to allow its survival. And it teaches us the things our psychology can't learn anywhere else. And allegorically, we all need to learn that it's never too late to heal, it's never too late to grow, and it's never too late to love.
Exactly. That's why these stories resonate with us internally, is because no matter what age you're at, or no matter what experience you've had, or what you've done, especially, I think a lot of it, like the reason why I'm drawn to C-dramas is because they are retributive, you know, like there's a rehabilitative element to them. Anybody who's done wrong, even the worst wrong in the universe,
redemptive,
still gets a little bit of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so like it's such a beautiful symbol on screen and I love it. So let's talk about the journey into the underworld.
Okay. Yes, my favorite part.
I mean, we love a good catabasis. Like it's solid. It's really important, right? You have to actually go to unlearn everything to be able to regrow.
Yeah, it's also a recognition of death,
Mm-hmm.
which as a culture we typically like avoid. We don't want to talk about the people that have passed on except for in our own experiences and emotions that we deal with them, right? So the journey to the underworld is a recognition of their lives fully and also our own mortality and how are we going to go through our own lives with the recognition of that. So the journey to the underworld scenes in this drama
Are
are
awesome.
so good. I'm gonna just deconstruct the symbolism really quickly for everybody. So the River of Oblivion in this drama world building is the Wanshan River, which is basically the river in the underworld of Chinese mythology where you cross over the bridge. And Mengpo is like the goddess that gives you the super forgetting. So you drink that, and then you get to go be reincarnated. According to mythology, if you fall into the river and go down, you're never reincarnated again. Basically, you've just decided to not go back into the cycles of existence and karma, which is understandable for some people. They're just like done with it, right? So that's why she's going down into the deep of the river to find the spirit of the Moon Supreme. He knows that if he appears in front of his son ever again, it might spark an emotion. So he's out of the cycle. He's been gone for 30,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's also Lethe from Greek mythology, the River of
Mm-hmm.
Oblivion. Again, we talked about this in our earlier episode, but you know, these things are actually universal.
Yeah,
Like
these are archetypical, deep, deep, deep psychological things that show up in multiple cultures and around
and
the world.
so many
Yeah,
stories.
exactly.
So she uses the illuminating flower, which is actually represented by a spider lily. In
Mm.
East Asian mythology, the spider lily is heavily associated with death and funeral rites, but also
Mm.
it's because it's the flower of the underworld. These grow in the paths of the people that walk through these spaces. They're often shown in Jansha stories or in yeah, basically Jansha a lot because of the mythological part. But spider lily is associated with death and Buddhism. It's a beautiful flower. Manjusaka is what the Japanese name is, and if you just look that up, you'll get such a rich history of stuff. Anime openings have this flower. You know, people are gonna die. So just FYI.
It's
Uh,
a good warning. It's like a stop sign.
it is. Spider lilies are a picture of death, but they're also like life being reborn. They're part of the karmic cycle of rebirth, right? They in
Mm-hmm.
this they feed on blood because they are dead to life. We're going to
Mm.
bring the dead back to life. Okay.
Mm.
Go back to the realm of Return to Ruin, which is they've reconstructed the home that she's walked through in earlier episodes in the underworld with the throne that she unlocked in order to
Mm-hmm.
find the key to his personal curse. And this is where they resolve it. It's so good.
It's so good.
And
So
the upside down moon, they both have to cross across the moon. They're both going down over the top of it.
yeah,
So I looked at this picture for a while and I was like, what is wrong with it?
it's
The
upside
moon is
down.
upside down. They're going up.
That's so cool.
There's a lot of mythological and cultural reference to the waters of above and below.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know anything about that, but like
A little bit. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
the oceans that close both sides of humanity, similar to like the turtle that holds the worlds back.
Mm.
But this is so good because it's like heaven is actually above.
Yeah.
You could, yeah, yes.
I
Anyway,
I'm looking forward to talking about Tao Sui, but I wanted to talk about him later, like
we have
when
to talk
we
about Tao Sui when we actually get into like the spoilers
yeah,
part of it. Yeah.
or like also like talking about him in the second half because we don't get a lot of him actually in the first half, just a little bit. So
We get touches, yeah, and we get
yeah,
like the in these early episodes we get Tai Sui from
Wrong has stuff. Yeah.
yeah
Yeah, but there's more later, so I think it's important, like with him influencing the chatty woman and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah
All right. And then we get
So,
the father who is worse than a beast. He
calling
feels
back
regret. Yeah.
calling back to the heroine's journey, obviously, we really need to understand that there's always a confrontation with the absent father or the wounded masculine,
Mm-hmm.
somebody within this culture that's been disassociated from it in some way, that's caused an original harm. And for the male character to have killed his father, like we've been through that with Star Wars. We went through
Yeah.
like,
It's like the
3 years.
worst. Like how Kylo of him. Jesus.
It was extremely Kylo of him to the point where he was just a baby stabbing him through the heart
Yeah.
by him basically asking for it. Like,
Yeah.
uh, but having to explain that for as long as we did in terms of the mythological structure of it, to having like fanboys online being like, you killed my favorite person, you should die. We're not in the
Yeah.
same space anymore. We're with him. Um, this is so good.
It
So
just but
important.
it just proves that there's different ways to tell a story where it won't actually completely I don't know, alienate a part of the audience.
Yeah.
Like you need to identify with the character before you kind of talk about the killing of their father, I
Oh
guess.
yes. Okay.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's you know what I'm saying? Like there's just like
Exactly. Yeah.
there's a different way to tell the story instead of kind of like the shock jock stuff that JJ Abrams did, you
I
know.
think you're completely correct in that. Like they're like having to filter that through the so we know what he's experienced. We know
Yeah.
that he's been abused
We
horribly, tortured.
know his father was a jerk,
Yeah.
right? So
What we
we
don't know is that he cared, and that's what
yeah.
she's trying to uncover. She loves him at this point because she goes into his dark recesses, his father's West Wing, in
Mhm.
order to uncover
Yeah.
his history, because she doesn't believe the two words that his dad said to him were based out of hate. She wants to believe
Yeah.
they're based out of love, and she is completely correct, and she resolves his curse through
Yeah.
that. She brings his father back, and she has him there, and they have the scene with the wooden ball for Kuju. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, it's so powerful. Dylan's acting in this scene is so good.
Yeah. He
Um,
really killed it. I don't know, it's just it, yeah.
he chooses to have pain. He
Yeah.
chooses to have emotion. His father is begging him to disperse his immortal spirit with his sword.
Yeah.
And he says, no, you don't have that choice. I do, and I choose not to.
Yeah.
That is when he becomes himself. That
Yep.
is when Dongfeng Xinjiang is a man.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
100%.
And like that's kind of the weirdest thing about especially Buddhism is that you have to choose suffering
You do.
and you have to be like okay with it and then recognize that because you suffer um you recognize and have empathy for everyone who suffers and it opens him up to being a true king.
He understands that his father went through pain for his experience too. Like in the scenes where they shoot his dad seeing and reacting to his pain, you see the
Mhm.
tears coming out of his eyes. You know that he's going
Mm.
through it. And it doesn't justify his
What he
actions at
did,
all,
yeah.
but it does make it so that you know that he understands what his father went through in order to build and what his empire is.
And it
So,
helps Orchid as well understand like the Moon Tribe people have a lot that they need. They need protection, they need love, and they
mhm.
are just as valuable of existing as everybody else because of what extremes people were willing to go to protect them.
Exactly. That was an extreme action
Yeah,
in the face of total annihilation.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
knowing that they needed basically a nuclear weapon, which
Yes.
is what they built.
Yeah. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
superhero stories are about. It's like building a nuclear weapon. How do you manage it?
Mhm.
Teach him emotions.
Yeah, or yeah, exactly. All right, let's talk about spiritual marriage. I think the first time that they're technically spiritually married is when she's like in heaven and has been whipped and he puts the orchid bracelet back on her.
Yes.
The
That's his claim.
Yeah, the moon orchid. Yeah.
The bone orchid.
Or bone orchid, yeah, that's a moon shaped.
It's so good.
Yeah, but it like that actually fully reminds me of a story of my grandparents when they got married. They got married after meeting each other like a month ago. It was different times.
Yeah.
But like he took the rings from the priest and put his own ring on first and then put on hers.
Oh,
It's kind of like that. It gave me that vibe, and it was
that's
like,
so sweet.
I don't know. It was just very like, this is just happening, and I'm making this happen. And it's like, we're not going to go through this rigmarole.
Well, it's true. The actual like things that you give over to somebody else always have to be a part of yourself. Like you're carrying a part of me with you, no matter where you go.
Yep. And so like the bracelet is very much like her wedding or her engagement band or something like that, right? Of course. And also he just is absolutely in love with the fact that she understands him.
Yeah, I don't. The scene is so important to me because again, it's after the underworld, immediately after. So I definitely focus on these episodes, but I apologize. But I also think this is important in terms of her renewal into goddesshood, right? She's
Mm-hmm.
wearing this kind of peach colored, almost white outfit. She's bridal.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually like for the first time deferring to him in regards to letting him go
Do
to
his
because
things, yeah.
he needs
Go and
to
suffer for his
yeah, but
brother.
also he's
Yeah.
stopping the execution of his own brother because of the actions that she's done. She recognizes
Yeah.
that he's learned. And that is the moment I feel like he is fully 100% in love with her. I mean, and
Yeah.
lampshaded by the fact that like he puts the cinnabar on her face.
Yeah.
Like before he like tells her that he's gonna kill Shu Yunten for her. But like
I'm
still
a I'm a
that's
I'm a kill everybody for you. Okay.
that's a marriage contract.
but
That's a monster husband marriage
yes, it
contract.
is. But I will kill your enemies for you, or more my perceived version of your enemies. Like I'll kill all the people that were mean for you. It's very
Yeah.
sexy.
It's not even that they're a threat. It's that they actually like slandered you.
Yeah.
And so now you are not going to be okay with me ever again. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. I also think this is like so important again. Is
This scene,
yeah.
breaks me.
Yeah.
Breaks me.
It's how do you know that you've reconnected with your emotions? It's that
He
you can allow yourself to experience compassion and love.
he like literally has never gone into that space since he's been in prison.
Yeah.
Probably 30,000 years, I'm sure some thoughts went through his head.
Yeah.
And the fact that like he like disallowed people from going there. This is his sacred space, his west wing of Beauty and the Beast or whatever.
Yeah.
He and the amount of embrace that happens in this is so
Oh, and his tears. Oh my god.
yes, you've never
Ah.
seen this in like literally you'll never see this in Jansha. You'll never
Yeah.
see the amount of time and care taken to the scene as you did with this director. Like they actually tried so hard to show somebody in the very deepest moment of emotional
Breakdown.
grief.
Yeah.
He's like, I've never felt this way about my father. I've never recognized the grief that I have in my heart. I have to live with this the rest of my life, but I am experiencing it and you are here with me and you're the reason why. And
Yeah.
she holds him so tight and they're running their hands through each other's hair in terms of like keep grabbing each other closer and
Yeah.
closer. And it's not even a romantic gesture as much as it is like
Just
I have somebody
compassion.
that understands.
Yeah.
Somebody finally understands the pain that I'm going through right now. That is so beautiful. It's just he and his vulnerability, his allowance, and like nobody else being there. Like it's oh
I love that he asks if I destroy my 7 emotions tree, will the
yeah.
suffering end? It's like, oh, poor
He's been
baby.
trying. He
Yeah.
wants so badly to be free of the pain. Because even
Yeah.
children understand that, like it's easier to forget than it is to experience this over and over and over again for the rest of your life. Grief is a thing that stays with you until you die. You just build it up as you age. Like you never get rid of it. You just have to learn how to live with it. And he's learning for the first time in his life how to experience these emotions, and she's there for him. And then
Exactly.
he loses her.
Yes. Yes. Goddess awakens. Yes. So we talked about this before, but this is really, really key. The search for who you truly are on the deep, deep inside. And I love that he's like, you're a Shishan orchid, like I love that because it is truthfully pointing out, you know, you're this goddess race, this mythical race, but an orchid, you're still you. You're still you.
Yes. So for anybody that's like not quite familiar with the Shishan thing, even though it's been kind of prefaced, is that they are a third party realm in terms of being a peacekeeping, conflict healing realm that's supposed to keep the demon and deity realms in check.
Yep.
Like their powers are specifically based in sort of this Buddhist ideology of nonviolence. They're like the Switzerland of the
And
sea drama.
they are able to heal anything.
Yes, their powers are in healing, plant life, nature. It's a beautiful structure, actually, because it's inherent to the idea that even with yin and yang, you still need sometimes like this compassionate overview that is allowed to resolve these conflicts.
And so he's basically saying, like, you're this, like, no matter what you are, you're just still an orchid. And you're also this extremely special thing.
The
That,
most important person to me.
yeah. And, but you're still you. I like that he points it out because, like, even though he's like, I just read your manual to take care of you and I did it and
It was a very large manual.
Yeah, it worked and look, you're okay, so you must be this. But that's not convincing enough for her.
No, not in
Because
that moment, especially.
but also in general, like because the stupid thing about femme stories like this is that we have to find it for ourselves. And no one can really actually tell us what we are, even though he is pointing out you're still you and you're also this special thing. You can be both. Um, it has to come from her discovering it.
Yeah, she really has to realize herself in that critical moment. Again, part of the story structure is that you have to have the moment of truth happen in the darkest hour. It's not her darkest hour, not yet.
Exactly. Let's talk about the sacred feminine of the moon tribe. We had a bunch of people who were like, hey, is this important? Yes.
Yes.
It is. Yes.
Yeah, I think Esther pointed that out on the chat, and I think I have a lot of words here.
Yeah.
And not a lot of imagery. I just put a yin symbol and then the sacred feminine moon tribe, which is like silly, but like, and I have another slide for this as well in terms of the actual Lady Yan, because she's super important. But like the Yan tribe, like the moon tribe is not a matriarchy per se because of the way that the society is structured, but culturally because of the horrors that they've experienced from heaven and having 100,000 of their people sealed, they are now effectively a matriarchy because there are really no men. And all of the men have been conscripted to fight in these stupid wars for the past 30,000 years to try to establish dominance. The culture has changed effectively from even when Dongfeng Xinshang was in power. And obviously, he acquired hellfire and went hard against heaven, and that's why he was put down. Whatever provocation happened before that, I'm sure there was because of the fact that his dad made him go through that. But now we're in a period of mourning as a people. And this is I feel like this is very post-colonial, honestly, of this group of people is that they have effectively become a society who cares about communitarianism, and also they've been, yeah, they take care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
They have traditions and values. The most important part of this episode, this is after Xiao Lanhua is saved from Haishi, and from the, you know, the 10,000, like the 1,000 dream prison.
Yeah.
And they go into this hunting party of women as like they're working their way back to the Moon Tribe. This is when she has the hairpin for the first time, also. But he is confronted by an elder of this small village of Moon Tribe women, who are all the people left over from the war. And she's like, "You came back, but my son, my father, my brother, my uncle, these people didn't come back." She won't bow to him. This is perfect. This is very matriarchal. She does not respect his authority, which I think is perfect, as it should be. Like, don't, no, nobody deserves authority. It
Well,
needs to be earned.
she's a crone, right? So
Yeah,
she doesn't have to.
yeah, exactly.
That's tradition.
Lady, what's her name? Like tribal elder Tai.
Yeah.
But this is a really important moment. It will have a callback in later episodes that I absolutely love. There's a song that the women sing.
Right.
Oh God, this is post-mortal arc, so we're getting into spoilers for the next part, but it changed my life. Anyway, so the point of this scene is really that you have Xiao Lanhua witnessing what the actual duties and prerogatives of being the Moon Tribe Elder is for her newfound husband.
Yeah, exactly. As well as, you know, hey, you're taking this on. That's really important too, is that they learn that, like, hey, all of the aspects involved in becoming sort of the queen of the Moon Tribe.
You live here now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to learn the customs. She learns the customs immediately by, you know, trying to put the flower in her hair and immediately being told not to.
Yeah. And speaking of the flower, let's talk
Did I
about the
include that?
Yeah, you did. You included the poppy. Yeah.
So I actually planned on getting a tattoo with the white poppies of remembrance around Ben's lightsaber.
Oh my
So
God.
this is, yeah. Um, just to say that, like, I really understand the symbolism pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just in from a, so sort of, it was sort of like a reactionary British symbolism to the red poppy of remembrance that came out of World War One,
Mm-hmm.
because it's from a very pacifist perspective, right? We need to stop war and violence. There is no point in killing other people. It doesn't accomplish anything. It's evil. It's wrong. I like legitimately believe this ideologically as a person, and I hope other people believe that too.
Yeah.
In defense of yourself, I understand how it's justified, but it doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
So the white poppy is really, really good as a inclusion in this, because it speaks to the fact that these women actually wear these every day of their lives to remember the loss of the people in their tribe. They don't have power where they can actually like revolutionize the system that they live in to say this is wrong and we shouldn't do that. They also don't have power against heaven, who is subjugating them from a very fascist viewpoint, right?
Yeah.
So this is their like little rebellion along with their crone. And this is something that she takes up, and she realizes that she is not privy and party to, and she puts down into the ground and she regrows.
Yeah.
This is her power as a goddess. She's a goddess of peace. She can heal the wound.
Yeah.
She can.
Exactly. So. Identification with the sacred feminine. This is entirely this cool mythology that the Moon Tribe has.
Yes. Especially with the fact that their leader is passed down hellfire from the goddess, right?
Yeah.
By force and by recrimination.
Mm-hmm.
But he's taught by, I wouldn't say random person, but somebody that's not associated with his family, just somebody that's in a servant position. Again, that's a sort of form of social anarchy. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
She just is she's just a somebody that works in this system that knows what to say at the right time to help this poor child who has no mother and literally has a father that's abusing him regularly,
Yeah.
and says, you can be a carpenter too if you want to,
Yeah.
and you will still accomplish great things. It's very Jesus narrative. I know, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's a lot of Catholicism in this, like in terms of like the saint wooden thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I just love that like the Moon Tribe is, for all intents and purposes, feminine, just because of like I put the yin in there. Yin, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
feminine, cold, hard,
Mm-hmm.
ground, moon. Can repeat all the stuff that you can read on Wikipedia, but it doesn't really make a difference. Like yin is about passivity and acceptance. It's also about, an outsider is always coded evil. It's like here he is accepting the mantle of being the leader of his tribe and not accepting his father's teaching, but
Mm-hmm.
he's accepting the idea that maybe he can fight to save the people that he loves. I don't know. She's
Yeah.
like giving him that. I love the line, she has many scars. Every one of them is a token of glory. Like,
Yeah.
is that not a feminine experience?
It is, yeah. And I do love that she's like made out of wood, and there's like goddess figurines are like super common
Mm-hmm.
from a matriarchal society perspective. And it's also like it's telling that the patriarchy has stepped in where matriarchies used to live.
Yes. They've
Yeah.
like co-opted her culture,
Yeah.
and they've actually taken over her resentment and her fear, and like changed it from a sort of rehabilitative sense into a, we're
Uh,
going to fight
we're going to
heaven.
go and dominate to
Yep,
protect ourselves instead of learning from
exactly.
it. It's good stuff. All right. The love alone can conquer wrath
Yeah, sorry
idea.
to include the tarot. We can just
No,
brush over this
it's
one.
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I think of Xiao Langhua's like personality as being based in the Strength Tarot card, and I included this when I talked about Ray back in the day. The idea that nature conquers nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is a goddess of, well, or at least a person that incorporates the idea of nature's purity and
Mm-hmm.
beauty, like the ability we can all grow, femininity, strength through weakness
Mm-hmm.
is like kind of a difficult thing for people to understand, but it's also a very Buddhist concept. You like the grass folds,
Mm-hmm.
it bends
It doesn't
against,
break. Yeah.
doesn't break. So she constantly does this throughout the narrative. She's able to tame this wild feral creature just by confronting them as she is,
Yeah.
and not trying to fight, and not trying to put herself up against it. And even if she did, I don't think that that would hurt, because like she's always been very yeah, you don't need conflict to deal with conflict, if you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean.
There are other ways to fight a battle than to fight a battle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the core part of her goddess nature, right?
exactly. All right. Uh Breaking the fairy tale curse, which I totally love this.
You can talk about this more than I can,
I
actually.
I mean, no, I don't know if I can. There is there's a lot of cool stuff that you saw that I did not. But so
I hope somebody's watching right now. Breaking the fairy tale curse. This scene, especially before the underworld, I needed to call it out because we talked about Hades and Persephone vibes, which is very
mhm.
true. She's taking into the underworld, but actively choosing to be taken into the underworld versus um, just being taken is very different. So this is Xiao Longhua's full moment of descent, Descent in the hero's journey or heroine's journey is all about the life-changing transformation. It's the confrontation with the immortal senses of yourself, and the mortal senses especially. But she goes into the west wing of the palace. Silent Moon Palace has been cut off for so long. She has animal spirit helpers. She's got her little like actual Disney character dragon and maidservant, whatever she is.
Yeah. Part moon tribe. She's a cool representation of the meta of the story. We find out later. So
yeah,
looking forward to talking about her.
It comes full circle for sure. Yeah. So I just had to include that as like she breaks the curse.
Yeah.
It's a fairy tale. This is very simplistic. I could be very simplistic about outfits too. Like her costume actually looks like Belle's.
Yeah, it does. That's so funny. I think it has to do with to get into our shadows sometimes and actually integrate them. You need somebody else to see them.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the people that go in there, especially Mr. Black Dragon, is like, I want to know his pain.
I just want to help him. Everybody cares so much. Yeah. All right. So there will be more Queen stage stuff to come. There's way more to talk about, especially with the Mortal Arc and after. But that was the bulk of what we wanted to talk about from a symbolic perspective today. We do have a few kind of other things to talk about just ever so briefly.
Oh, good.
And I did really want to just shout out to this story for having such strong friendships.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just love it. I love it so much. So we have our Black Dragon and DFQC. We of course have Rongha Ha and Changha. Their friendship, and he's like, he needs to use him, but he also feels bad about it.
They're like, I appreciate the fact that like Avenue X is like, they should just have a romance. Like,
they should have had a romance.
Just have a boys' love romance between these two characters, because it's obviously being set up as such. Like they've known each other for as long as they have, and he feels guilty every time that he has to use him to attain a goal. Yeah.
And then just like, minor shout out to our Orchid and Jelly, who they're great. It's
a white and black friendship in terms of like, there's like a very innocent, naive character, and then there's a very worldly, jaded character. Also, very jaded character, innocent versus innocent with her and our secondary romance.
Exactly.
Which I love.
Yeah, and that's a good transition to that's my comfort secondary ship.
No, I always go for the secondary ships, and you called this out really early for me, and I was really happy.
They showed up on screen, and I was like, "Oh my god, you're gonna love this."
I did. He has pulled his sword on her so many times. I love a little neck blade action. Like, okay, you might die today if you don't say the right thing, but he's so dumb that she could say anything and he would fall for it, to the point where he's like actively bowing to Shalonhua, because she believes that she's the Moon Kingdom heir apparent. So I love this relationship. It's hard to say, because like I like a lot of secondary relationships, I'm sure. I mean, look at me. I started a whole culture and life around myself around
a secondary ship
in Eternal Love. Like, I was like, oh, this is my thing. I don't know why I get it, but it's like, it's not resolved. There's no aftermath. There's no children. I don't know. So
yeah, and this one is also not resolved. And actually, the actor was caught on a live stream talking about how he wanted to explore his relationships.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, they've done a lot of like shoots for fashion stuff together. They're perfect together. They know it. They didn't. Yeah.
I hope they get a drama. I really do. I hope they get like a continuation of their story. I think it's so cute.
Yeah, knowing how like the active paths of secondary leads have led to like better things for people in C-drama land, they're definitely getting noticed. I'm happy for them.
Yeah, it's good. All right, quick correction corner. All right, this is really interesting, I think.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know if it's completely true, and I don't have any sources for it, but Tumblr has been a good resource for me recently. I had a week to prepare, and I also had a really dark week, so I apologize if there's not a lot of information here, but
We just talked for
apparently
2.5 hours, Nat.
I know, but it was about stuff I knew, not like the actual meat of what's going on in the Kanglanju story. They according to somebody, they had to change Mo, which is devil or demon. We talked about Mo as being actual devil in the last thing to pass censorship. But they changed it to the Moon Tribe. I don't know if that's completely correct. It must have happened pre-production, obviously, because they've set the whole story up to be Moon Tribe based.
Yeah, and there's also like a ton of moon symbolism, which makes it all work.
It works really well
Yeah.
that way. The
Yeah.
yin symbolism already, but just the moon in general. So, but I do understand the wooden head. It's someone emotionally deprived, is what Esther said in the chat, which is I agree. Yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it necessarily means that she was calling him Big Demon Lord or whatever, but
yeah,
yeah,
it's interesting. I think it makes sense to call him Flat Affect King or something like that. Yeah, it's good.
Man has not learned masking king.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, big wood head. Okay, I can read that.
Big wood head.
I learned Japanese, not Mandarin, but
all right, let's do our memes. It's hilarious.
Yes, I think this is really important for you if you don't really understand the characters to know what Tumblr's doing with them.
So funny. World's most powerful villain somehow tricks himself into becoming a dedicated house husband. That's the greatest tagline for the show.
That's the greatest tagline for any form of fiction ever made. Like let's just say
just write that and you will make lots of money.
Yeah. The myth of consensual sex. You didn't ask your younger brother.
Yeah, he doesn't like her.
Oh, it gets worse. It's gonna be so worse.
It's
than the
so
last
bad.
arc.
Yeah,
I can't believe we're gonna have to talk about that.
I know.
So yeah, we'll talk about the last arc. It's gonna be fun in terms of there are some points where we're like literally as experienced drama watchers, experienced genre watchers being like, please stop, please. Why'd you do this? Why did you?
I hit that in the Mortal arc. So
me too.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. The effort who says it. Yeah, this is totally true. It's amazing.
Is legally not allowed to say it.
Is legally not allowed to say it. Yes.
I love my dragon so much. I just love him. I love a character that is so like when he talks to Julie and he's like when they have that like really nice talk at the fountain and then they realize their ideological differences and then they just like ah!
Yeah,
it's so pure because she's like yeah of course I don't think anybody's real and I don't trust anybody and I only care about money and he's like what I got out of my abusive situation was that I should be the most honest and sincere person in the world and I am
and then I'll find people who accept me like that. Yeah,
beloved character in all of C-drama land. The
he
big
is
black
awesome.
dragon.
I love him.
I want to give him a little pat on the snoot. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the other one is just really really tough.
Yeah. So there's exceptional stuff on Tumblr right now for this, which is great.
Like, again, we were talking about the response to this drama being bigger than we expected. The fact that Tumblr's come out in droves for it.
When Tumblr comes out,
yeah. Because Tumblr is pretty much dead otherwise, but they are alive for this, and also C-dramas in general. Again, this is a medium that people have not really explored or really cared about outside of the sort of niche interests of weirdos like ourselves. But once you start to deep dive into it, you have so many hero moments, so many really like resolving things about the way that you've explored story and like cared about it, that you can't give it up. Like you won't ever drop it.
You feel so spoiled compared to Western media, which is not built for you. And yeah, I love it. It's so good. So we're still working on when we're going to be doing our next live stream to cover the rest of the arcs, as well as more symbolism, more thematic conversation, probably a little bit of more costuming stuff. We're still working out when that'll be, but I'll schedule it beforehand. So like and subscribe this video. It'll help you get the notification when it's going to be. And we look forward to finishing out Love Between Fairy and Devil. Nat, where can people find you?
First and foremost, thank you everybody that actually watched this show, but also are watching now. Really appreciate it. You can find me at Ashes for Foxes on Twitter, and also at Metamashina. That's METAMASHINA. We're a podcast. We've covered a lot of different things. Marie Claire's been on our Meteor Garden episode. That was way before F4. So if you like F4, start there.
Yeah, it's the best adaptation of Hanayori Dango out there. I'm Marie Claire Gould, and you can find me on Twitter at Marie C. Gould, or WT Force Media for What the Fiction, or WT Force Show for What the Force. And we look forward to having you back next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Far away reaches for him.